The Doctor stuck his head out of the TARDIS door, and an expression of perplexity immediately crossed his face. He was looking at a room of enormous size, with walls and ceiling of such a pure shade of white they gave the impression of being luminous. He was near the door, or where the door would have been had there been one, but there wasn't. In its place was a wide rectangular gap in one of the walls that gave out onto a corridor. A sign was affixed over the lintel. The Doctor read it aloud.
Museum of the Minor Galaxies, Exhibit Room 3933751.
As he came to the next line, his eyebrows rose.
Planet of origin, Earth.
There was another sign out in the corridor. It indicated, with the aid of helpfully directed arrows, that to the left, room 3,933,750 was displaying exhibits from Dulcis, and to the right, room 3,933,752 was doing the same for Raxacoricophalopatorius. The Doctor frowned at the signs for a moment, then turned his attention to the room he was in. Along the walls, and filling the vast area they enclosed, were display stands bearing an extremely Catholic collection of artefacts from Earth's history. The TARDIS, he realised, had materialized in a roped-off space. The Doctor hopped over the rope and read aloud the sign that was hanging from it.
Exhibit temporarily removed for repair.
There's a wonderful irony to that, don't you think? Given that you took her from a repair shop in the first place.
The Doctor rolled his eyes expressively as he turned to face the speaker. He frowned fiercely.
What am I doing here? I didn't ask to come here. Have you hijacked me?
Oh dear. The eyebrows have gone into attack mode. It's all right, Doctor, you can tell them to stand down. You're here because I asked for you to be brought here.
The Doctor turned round to face the TARDIS accusingly.
Have you two been talking behind my back?
You did say, take me where I need to go when I need to be there.
Well, that's a yes, then,
said the Doctor, still addressing the TARDIS. He pivoted back to Dasterian.
So this is your last visit, is it? Your much hyped right moment. Final and full disclosure. Why here? Why this place?
Because there's something here I want you to see.
Dasterian crooked a finger, and he followed her as she threaded her way between the maze of display cases until she came to a stop in front of one of them. Two of them, in fact. One held an ancient sword and a circular shield, both made of bronze. The other a recreation of a blacksmith's forge, complete with glowing fire, bellows and anvil.
Why are you showing me a sword? Is this my other self's idea? Some kind of metaphor for the fact that I'm going to need to attack something?
It was the shield I wanted you to see. A shield is for defence. You've never been comfortable as a sword, Doctor. You're much more at home when being a shield. You've had moments of aberration, of course, but throughout your entire life, all those yous, all those doctors, from the very first you all the way down to this you, like links in a chain, through it all, your fundamental instinct has always been to protect, not to kill. You may remember I said something of the sort to your third self long ago, and that instinct would benefit many others in the future.
What exactly is it you're working round to telling me in this extremely circuitous way of yours?
The Doctor's eyebrows were still drawn together, but now it was not because he was angry. It was because he was intrigued.
You said it yourself, Doctor. Great men are forged in fire. It is the privilege of lesser men to light the flame, whatever the cost. A chain doesn't just happen. It has to be forged, link by link. Forging is a tough process, Doctor, as well as a toughening one. You have to start with the right alloy for the purpose. Then what has to happen to it?
Oh, are we back at infant school? All right then, lots of fun things.
He gestured at the display case containing the glowing forge and began to speak in a caricature of an enthusiastic teacher.
You have to keep heating it up, thrashing it with a big hammer, shoving it back in the furnace when it starts to cool down, so you can thrash it again, and when you finally get it into the right shape, you drown it for a while to cool it down. Oh, and then, just for good measure, you heat it up and cool it down a few more times to temper it. All of which you know already, so why are you asking me?
Leaving aside the concept of being more ill-tempered than tempered, I'm asking you because I want you to reflect on the result of what you've described. Look at that shield, Doctor. What if the alloy used to make it had been sentient? It wouldn't have enjoyed any of those processes. They'd have hurt. They'd have caused pain. They'd have had to be endured. But the outcome was a tool of the right configuration for the required task, something stronger, harder, tougher than the original material. And don't forget that one of the other definitions of tempering is to strengthen through experience or hardship. Soldiers are spoken of as being forged in battle.
I don't like soldiers.
With one notable exception, perhaps? Some people say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You don't have to be a soldier to become stronger as a result of knowledge you've acquired or adversity you've faced. You can be anyone and still do that. And you, above all others, are not just anyone, Doctor.
The Doctor regarded her grimly.
You said you'd explain why everything that's ever happened to me has happened. Is this what you mean? I'm the one who's being tempered.
If you're forging a chain which is going to have to bear a great weight, you need to test every single link to make sure none of them will fail. That's why I visited you in all your regenerations, Doctor. That's why your TARDIS always took you not where you wanted to go, but where you needed to go. To become strong. You've already had to be so strong so often, and yet there's that which lies in your future, in all our futures, which, when you face it, will mean you'll need to be stronger than you've ever been before.
To be a shield, to protect against this thing that's going to threaten the existence of every universe, every reality. Oh, no pressure then. You know, it really would be rather helpful if you could give me some indication of when this is going to happen. I'd hate to miss my cue.
Mysterium gave him a troubled look.
I already told you why I can't do that. The very nature of what's coming means crucial details are hidden. When it's going to happen is still one of them. There are so many variables. It's like trying to see something vast travelling through a sandstorm. It can be seen that it's there, that it's coming, but what it is and when it's going to arrive, those things are obscured. My Doctor and I only know that it lies at some point in your personal future timeline. It's somewhere ahead of you, Doctor, and one day you'll meet it, on behalf of all of us. You'll be our shield, our defender, as you always have been. Any of the Doctors you have been and any that you will be. Throughout every time, every space, it will always be remembered when every you was the Doctor.
She looked at him with no trace of the dry amusement that had always characterised her manner. Now she looked sad, regretful.
And now my task is finally complete. I've delivered my message, the last link in my chain letter, and I must return to my Doctor. This is goodbye.
The Doctor abruptly turned away, as if her announcement had made him angry. Or perhaps he too was feeling regret at this parting. He stood with his back to her for a few seconds, silent. Then he swung round to face her again, his own face carefully cleansed of expression.
Well, come on then. You've got someone else to say goodbye to before you go.
Ignoring the smile that began to spread across her face, he started to lead the way back to the TARDIS. When they got there, he unhooked the rope that was barring entrance, opened the door, and, without speaking, made an ushering gesture, indicating that she should precede him in. She inclined her head with great dignity, and did so. The Doctor carefully shut the door behind them both. When he turned, as he had expected, Dasterium was at the console, her eyes closed, her hand flat against the time rotor. After a few moments she withdrew it and turned to face him.
Thank you, Doctor. Because of what House did with Idris in the rift outside this universe.
She glanced at the time rotor again.
That was when the two of you talked. But this has been when we talked.
The Doctor regarded her without expression.
Will I be seeing you again?
Mysterium smiled enigmatically.
That would be telling.
I had rather hoped so.
She gave him a look he was unable to interpret.
The future is still blurred, Doctor. Based on the knowledge I now possess, I can't tell you. But what did I tell you when we very first met?
Always expect the unexpected.
Then perhaps that's what we should both do.
She stepped away from the console.
Goodbye, Doctor.
The folds of her robe began to stir, as if a breeze was rising. Light began to pulse around her, growing more intense with every new beat, masking her with ever-growing radiance. Within moments it had become so powerful that the Doctor had to shield his eyes from it. And faintly, ever so faintly, there came the sound of a dematerializing TARDIS.
In time, Doctor. All will be revealed in time.
Her voice came out of the light, faint, as if from a vast distance, fading just as the intense white glare was now fading, as the sound of dematerialization was fading. A few moments more, and all were gone.
Of course it will,
said the Doctor ironically, addressing the now empty space where she had been.
It always is. Where else except in time? Was that supposed to be something I couldn't have worked out for myself?
He walked forward and trailed the fingertips of one hand lightly across the console, deep in thought. Then he looked up at the time rotor.
Some unknown time in the future. We'd better make sure we're ready, hadn't we? Because that's the thing about the future. It never waits for you to be ready. It starts without you. And that's the other thing about the future. The thing that everyone tends to forget. When it starts. Because always, the future starts now.
And on that now, he launched the TARDIS into the time vortex.